Welcome back to Indiana Diecast Racing and the continuing action of the Final Fantasy Fracas. Because of how well the last video went, we've decided to run 3 groups every video for at least the remainder of round 2. Today it's 27, 28, and 29. Kicking things off for 27, it's Slingshot, hailing from miniature car racing in his ultralight mod rod he used to put up 14 points in round 1, never finishing worse than second. Representing Arlo in his Lethal Diesel modded for war, it's Motor Toms. Toms won his first round group with 12 points, beating out round 3 competitor Rocket from MQH Racing. From Numskull Racing, it's Numskull in another Bubble Gunner. He took the group win in round 1 with only 10 points due to a number of group DNFs. And from Golden Owl Racing, at the helm of a Lakester, it's Grey Wizard. GW beat Rex from Raw Sun God Racing to advance behind Canadian Stig in round 1. The first of at least 12 laps today with Slingshot and Motor Toms up front, Numskull and Grey Wizard in the back. Something I've been ruminating on lately, since there are already several teams with an absurd number of drivers in round 3. In order to help even out the competition, in round 3, if a team has 4 or more drivers still in competition, they will run an intra-team group. If they have a plethora being more than 4 drivers, I may let the team owner decide which 4 are going to risk elimination against each other. Angry comments only, please. Motor Toms put on a clinic showing us how it's done from that outside lane in turn 1. Arlo Racing leads early. Numskull assumes the pole for lap 2, and I have a feeling I know how this one's going to go. His Bubble Gunners have all been hot this tournament, solidly built, and they seem to handle tracks in Indiana pretty well. Slingshot able to slot into second again, though Motor Toms is challenging. It's Numskull, Slingshot, Motor Toms, and Grey Wizard on another fast, clean lap. After 2, we've got a 3-way tie for first, with 6 apiece. Grey Wizard lagging behind, but both his back row starts are now behind him. Grey Wizard on the pole, Numskull outside. I know I don't say it enough, but I do appreciate all the builders who entered the tournament and the massive amount of entries they submitted. We're going on over a year of competition now at this point, and at this rate, I'm guessing round 2 will be done sometime in June. Toms closes on Wizard, but Wizard holds on to take lap 3. Slingshot is wild on the final straight, but rolls across for a late 4th. Grey Wizard gets just what he needed, and the group all within 3 points of leader Motor Toms. All the more impressive is Toms, who is only now starting from the pole position. He gets the lead and holds onto it into Hogwarts, and still out front following turn 2. Grey Wizard is second, Numskull third, Slingshot well behind. They come to the finish. Motor Toms wins, and Grey Wizard slides across the line ahead of Numskull for second. Slingshot spins out and will DNF on lap 4. Toms wins the group outright, and Numskull hangs on for second, 1 point ahead of Grey Wizard. Over to Group 25 with another driver from Arlo Racing, channel veteran Crystal ZD. Crystal was impressive in the first round in her 99-gram Audacious, putting up 14 points to win the group over another Numskull entry. And another driver for miniature car racing, Deuce, is in his Bone Shaker that he drove to a group victory in round 1. And it looks like it'll be a triple rematch with another Bubble Gunner for Numskull, this one winning a runoff with a wildcard driver Peggy Oki to take second behind Rowan of Uncle Elvis Racing in the first round. And shaking things up is Julia Gearley from DRT3K in her curbside that she drove to a second place finish behind G4's recently eliminated Monkey G Monkey Do. Crystal and Deuce up front, Numskull and Julia in the back. Crystal and Numskull take off like a pair of rockets. Numskull makes a late move, there's contact, and Crystal ZD just barely wins ahead of Numskull. Julia will finish a ways back for third, and Deuce takes fourth. Crystal had quite a lead, but gets loose in the square, allowing Numbskull to close the gap, colliding with Crystal, and honestly, it's shocking he didn't beat her to the line. Arlo leads another one early. Numbskull on the pole for lap 2. Numbskull gets a great start, but here comes Crystal. Numbskull cuts her off, and this time Julia's in the battle. Lap 2 is Numbskull, Crystal, and Julia. There's Deuce. He'll roll in for a very distant fourth once again. Crystal was able to build some great speed before turn 2 and nearly pulled off a great double pass. Numbskull and Crystal now tied atop the group at the halfway point. Julia and Deuce on the inside lane, the pair needing points ASAP. Numbskull and Crystal take the lead from Julia, and this could put an end to the underdog's chances. Lap 3 is Numbskull, Crystal, Julia, and Deuce takes fourth for the fourth place turkey. Sure enough, this one's over as Numbskull and Crystal ZD are just too dominant, but we'll still run the final lap. Deuce briefly gets in front, but Julia makes the pass. Something happens to Deuce in Echo Base, and he's fallen way behind. Julia Gearley will end her tournament with a lap victory. Numbskull wins the group. And on to our third and final group of the day with our third Arlo driver of the day, Carmelo in her cosmically themed Audacious. Grandma stomped her first round group with 14 points. One of 6 Rust Belters remaining, and the only one with the most excellent of green hair, it's Tommy Toots in his Locomotorin. Tommy put up 12 points in round 1 despite never winning a lap, taking second behind Big Al's perfect 16. From Numbskull's Drop Tops and Friends team, he's riding his yellow speed bump this time. He took second behind Thomas in that all-speed bump round 1 group that sent 2 drivers to the wildcard showdown. And representing Vapor Racing, Amelia is in her, well, slightly modified zoom-in. Way back in Group 17 of Round 1, so like a year ago, Amelia took second after winning a 3-way runoff with Mr. Devilish Star Q and Cardinal G. Carmelo and Tommy up front, Numbskull and Amelia in the back. It's a tight group through turn 1. Tommy and Amelia are slow in 2, and Carmelo takes the lead. Tommy and Amelia struggling to keep up. Numbskull spins and yields the victory to Carmelo. Tommy is third, and Amelia spins around for fourth. If you haven't caught on by now, I really dislike replays, at least when there's not something exciting to look at. Not to mention they really bog down a video, and I know most of you just want to see the outcome. The outcome of this lap is Carmelo on top with 4. I think that's the third group in a row where Arlo Racing took the opening lap victory. Numbskull assumes the pole, and with Amelia behind him, it almost looks like their vehicles merged due to the colors. Numbskull blasts way out front, and Carmelo makes good use of the outside lane downhill to pass Amelia. The longer cars can still be fast, but they really struggle in the crossover turns. Numbskull gets loose and takes a hard hit from Carmelo. Numbskull wins while Carmelo spins and gets tossed across the line by Amelia, who stalls on the wall, allowing Tommy Toots to make a backwards pass to steal third. While the scoreboard will show a Numbskull win, this was a great lap by Carmelo, who should have zipped past Numbskull when he lost speed. I'd say Carmelo probably owes Amelia for that love tap at the end. Carmelo and Numbskull now tied at 7, a little skill and a little luck putting them up there. Amelia and Numbskull up front for lap 3, Tommy and Carmelo in the back. Amelia seems to like starting on this lane, but oh boy is she slow in turn 2. Numbskull and Carmelo take off again. Numbskull is off track, and the Westfield Highway sign gets hammered by a train. Lap 3 is going to be Carmelo, Amelia, and a ways back is Tommy Toots. Accidents like this are why we're working on some concrete barriers to protect the infield. Something happened in turn 5, and according to Carmelo, Numbskull, quote-unquote, just drove off the track. I didn't touch him or make faces at him or anything. Either through skill, luck, or skullduggery, Carmelo clinches a spot in round 2. The field only separated by 3, Numbskull with the advantage despite a donut. So 13 or so minutes in, here's what's probably the last lap of the day. Amelia gets probably her best start. Ooh, but turn 2 does her in again. Carmelo tries to pass Tommy in Echo Base, but he shows her the caboose. This is definitely the closest they've been all day. Tommy spins, it's close, and I have no idea who won that lap. Amelia takes 3rd and Numbskull 4th. Taking another look, this angle kind of makes it look like Carmelo took the lap. We'll switch to the finish line cam, though the angle's not great. It's so hard to tell. Officials are saying Tommy's hair crossed the line first, and in either case, Tommy Toots overtakes Numbskull, and he'll advance to round 3 with Carmelo. Updating the standings, Arlo adds a massive 3 drivers, putting them on top with 7. Numbskull adds 2 more copies of himself, and Rust Belt Diecast increases their total to 3, the only other team to advance a driver today. Congratulations to Numbskull, Carmelo, Motor Toms, Crystal ZD, and Tommy Toots. This has been Jim D for Indiana Diecast Racing. Be sure to check in next time for more slightly above mediocre diecast racing and the continuing round 2 action of the Final Fantasy Fracas.